You can't divorce a person from their ideas. You can't divorce a person from their activities. And I certainly don't want to be divorced from mine. I'm a total entity. And when you see what I do, this is an extension of what I think.
Today's question is, what is an atheist?
What is an atheist? It's a person who doesn't believe in God or Supreme Being.
An atheist is a person who has absolute confidence in their fellow men and in their own ability.
A person that doesn't believe in God, doesn't have a belief that there is a God.
Ones who don't believe in God? What is an atheist? An atheist is someone who does not believe in God.
Oh, that's the 1-hour lecture that I give to universities, remember?
An atheist is someone who doesn't believe, I started to say in God, but I suppose in any type of superhuman or religious being.
Atheists negate a tremendous number of other really idiotic and extraordinarily stupid ideas, which include the Bible as a holy book, the efficacy of prayer, a life after death, and a sort of church structuring with everything that goes with that. Dick, if you'll take a number, I'll call. That may be one of the attorneys.
It's all right. What am I going to do? You're busy.
You could take it from the other number. An atheist is someone who has to be harassed by the existing establishment power structure because we're a threat to those things that they hold dear. The principal threat that an atheist is an atheist is a person who questions every kind of authority. And this is the thing that is important, because if we can, without blinking an eye, question the ultimate authority, God, who must be obeyed, then we can question the authority of the state, we can question the authority of a university structure, we can question the authority of our employer, we can question anything. So I think that primarily what an atheist is a person who looks at an authoritarian idea or an authority structure and says to that authority structure, from whence do you derive your authority, and why should I be obedient to you? It appears to me that if I have human intelligence, that this is enough for me to try to challenge whatever you're doing. Well, a few years ago, Mr. Malcolm X began to lift himself up to the place where he began to blaspheme Almighty God. And you see what happened to him. And I am baptized with the Holy Ghost, which is a tremendous event for me. I am not granting permission in any way for this letter to be revealed to anyone or made public at any level. I only felt it charitable that you should know that you have attracted the attention of a person who is on speaking terms with the Almighty. That's too good to be true. And I reach out and I take a little bit of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I take a little bit of Thomas Paine, and I take a little bit of Mahatma Gandhi, and I take a little bit of every human being, every great human being who has conducted himself so that his life has shown what can happen if a person is totally committed to the human community or to the earth or what have you. I think Isaac Walton, who attempted the first efforts at conservation in the United States, that those persons, and we should just take and pick here and pick there and pick any place else, and that we shouldn't worry about the grouping of those ideas in a particular constellation. Like everybody is horrified in relationship to, say, communism. But if communism comes out with a very fine idea, I'll take the idea. I could care less who gave it birth. Or if a very fine idea could come out from fascism, I would take that very fine idea and pick it away from its birth, its parent, and take that idea and incorporate it in those values that I have. Please Richard come in.
Oh, Christ, no.
See? I got one too. It's
What in
after
the hell
all.
would you be wearing one for?
Well,
I realize you're so mad that you weren't born a man you can't stand it.
no, that's not true.
The hell it ain't true.
See? All I gotta do is put my black suit on. And then
Your
put
black
this
suit?
underneath. Yeah, the suit I got married in. My mourning suit. M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. See? And then I can be a priest too. Or the equivalent thereof. And an atheist minister. No, Richard, you look absolutely charming. And would you please come in and get your picture took in it? Imagine, all these things cost is $10 a piece, and from then in, everything for your whole life is free. It's a good investment. Except, of course, I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm working on our income tax. This is why this is complete confusion. Notice all the bills. And I'm adding up our taxes like this. You know, so much tax here, so much tax there. And meanwhile, these baskets pay no tax at all, simply because they got this bass-ackward collar on. I got large for me and extra large for Richard. There you are.
You understand why these were invented to begin with, don't you, Grandma?
Sure. So everybody could be tax-free.
No, they came along with the silver-lined collars. Oh, no, man, no.
How about them
No,
apples?
I don't.
You don't like that? But I'm a bishop. I gotta have something.
Yeah, well, you don't dress in black.
I could get a flowing black chiffon
Well, you better
with
get it.
with feathers and black ostrich feathers in the bottom. We could get a white ostrich and dye them black. The whole thing is in mourning, don't you see? Well, in any event. And as pointed out to you, two little pockets, inconspicuous pockets, so that if anybody sidles up and gives you a few bucks, you can slip the few bucks into the pocket. Nobody will know the difference. It's phony, just like the people who wear them. It's completely phony. And we bought them at the Lutheran supply house. And everybody in Austin, because there is only one supply house for these things, even the Roman Catholics have to go and purchase them from the Lutherans. That must really hurt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
The daily
We'd like to
routine, of
welcome you
course,
aboard
is to stay up
Vanity
at this
Fair
damn office about 10 hours a day. But outside of that, I am gone most of the time. I would say one half of the time I'm on trips to give speeches. Winds up very, very poor. And quite frequently a particular photographer or particular producer or particular interviewer will get back to me and write me apologies. And I'm always embarrassed by that because I don't know what the hell to do with a written apology. So I generally laugh about it and send back some sort of frivolous reply or laughable reply. I didn't come to Texas. I was brought to Texas. I had fled from Baltimore to Honolulu, hoping to find political asylum in Honolulu, which is a fundamentally Buddhist state that is anti-Christian. And I couldn't find it there. The legal procedures were against me. So I fled to the only Western country that I knew that was absolutely dedicated to separation of church and state, and that's Mexico. And when I got into Mexico, while I was there, I was approached one night at gunpoint and herded onto an airplane with my then 11-year-old son and Richard, whom I later married. We were not married then. And when we got down to Mexico City from this very small village that we lived in 8 miles out, 8 hours out of Mexico City. Richard was forced out of the car at gunpoint, and I was put into an airplane. And when the airplane landed in San Antonio, Texas, there were Maryland police waiting for me to get off of the airplane and arrest me, all of which is extraordinarily illegal. However, I, by just circumstances which were extremely laughable, managed to elude those Maryland police. They didn't pick me up to take me back to Maryland. So therefore, the governor of Maryland asked for me to be extradited on the charge of my having beaten up 14 police officers. And in order to fight that extradition charge, I had to come to the capital of Texas. And my whole first knowledge of Texas was the inside of your jails. I was arrested 3 times in San Antonio. I was arrested 2 or 3 times, I've forgotten which, in Austin, Texas. And I must say that your jails are quite dirty, very cluttered, and they smell from urine. And absolutely not a nice place in which one should spend one's continuing existence. But I had to fight the extradition to Maryland from the capital. And by the time that we had established ourselves here, we were so entrenched that we couldn't possibly afford to move, since inflation is upon us in America today. Well, it seems to me that if one is in a revolution, and we are in a number of revolutions in America, we're in a religious revolution, we're in a women's revolution, we're in an economic revolution, we're in a number of revolutions in America, that the only thing that is necessary is to win. This is it. And if your tactics take away some of your ability to win, then your tactics are no good. Now, as I look at the women's liberation movement in Austin, Texas, I'm appalled at what goes on. What happens is that once a week they have a meeting, and at this meeting they have group therapy. Now, they may call it by something else, but what they do is all to get together, and each one of them tells what their husbands did that week and how they tried to cope with the problems of what their husband did that week. Well, I'm sorry, one has to speak in sweeping terms and of generalizations in broad sociological concepts. And as long as these people have not transcended their individual problems of the relationship that they have to their husbands, forget it. They're bogged down in that, and they are no good to the movement at all. They can't possibly help the movement.
Unfortunately, I cannot say that I did it. I do think that I have resolved any kind of Oedipal complex I had in relationship to my father. I never slept with him or anything like that. I mean, we had a fairly full relationship, and I hate to say that. Now, I hated my mother's guts. If that's significant to you. But not my father. I liked him pretty much, yeah.
I'm a little bit worried because they have this vague and mystic religion. And on the one hand, I like to think that I'm completely identified with the concept of flower child, even an aging one or an unblooming one. But at the same time, I'm frightened because I see this lack of intellectual credentials which goes with their acceptance of it. They know very, very little about religion. They know very, very little about comparative religion, history of religion, or the basic philosophy of religion, or even the theology of religion. So that what they're picking up is extremely mystic and extremely anti-rational, and has to do with acceptance again of awe of natural phenomena. Which is a surprising thing to me, because I thought that many hundreds of thousands of years ago, people gave up praying for rain or worrying about cometary influence. I think that the fact that astrology has picked up now, certainly among the hippies and among the youth, this worries me a little bit, because this again, reliance upon something outside of oneself. If you get rid of God and you pick up astronomy, or if you get rid of the nasty old Semitic God of the Old Testament and you pick up this bright-eyed, blue-eyed, blonde Jew to whom the future is going to belong, Jesus Christ, or you pick up a mystic guru type of religion, or you're picking up a religion that has to do with nature and the mystery of natural things such as stars or comets or rainstorms or the mood in a particular valley. This can be frighteningly irresponsible, and it can be very frightening in relationship to the kind of ethic or morality system, philosophy of living.
My whole bag is really toward action orientation. Get out and do something. So if you make a mistake, so what? Go out and interact. Go out and get involved. Don't just sit there on your ass. Do something. If you make some mistakes, that's too bad. Maybe you can correct those mistakes. Maybe you can't, but at least you're trying.
Don't you know I'd find another cause? That other cause would be the continuing militancy directed toward freedom for women, political freedoms for women, monetary freedoms for women, and of course I'm an anarchist. I've always got the old black flag to fall back to. And this is for absolute individual rights and individual freedom, and of course I would go to that.
We've had some discussions about this. Dick feels that I've got something that I manufacture inside of me that if we could only bottle it, this is how we could support the movement. He thinks it's much better than LSD because it is a drive toward action, something like an excess of adrenaline or something else. However, unfortunately, not too much of this is directed toward the pleasure-pain motive. And I mean in relationship to that. Number one, I don't want too much pain. I'm not interested in being a masochist. I'm not interested in being a martyr either. And Richard constantly says to me that even if I die in the effort, he's going to teach me to relax, to stop working, to stop this horrible drive. So he gets me out in the backyard, you know, to fly kites or to shoot bows and arrows. And I'm just as full of this intense activity in flying the goddamn kite or shooting the goddamn arrows as I am in doing this stuff. So apparently I'm psychologically constituted to be just a little bit nuts.
Okay, good enough. I'll see you. Bye for now. Hi, Torque. I hope you got Torquemada.
Oh, yeah.
Too good to be true. Bye.
Of other really idiotic and extraordinarily stupid ideas, which include the Bible as a holy book, the efficacy of prayer, a life after death, and a sort of church structuring with everything that goes with that. Dick, if you'll take a number, I'll call. That may be one of the attorneys.
It's all right. What am I going to do? You're busy.
You could take it from the other number. An atheist.
Today's question is, what is an atheist?
What is an atheist? It's a person who doesn't believe in God or supreme being.
An atheist is a person who has absolute confidence in their fellow men and in their own ability.
A person that doesn't believe in God, doesn't have a belief that there is a God.
Ones who don't believe in God.
Atheist is someone who has to be harassed by the existing establishment power structure because we're a threat to those things that they hold dear. The principal threat that an atheist is an atheist is a person who questions every kind of authority. And this is the thing that is important, because if we can, without blinking an eye, question the ultimate authority, God.
What is an atheist? An atheist is someone who does not believe in God.
Oh, that's the 1-hour lecture that I give to universities, remember?
An atheist is someone who doesn't believe, I started to say in God, but I suppose in any type of superhuman or religious being.
Atheist negates a tremendous number of... You can't divorce a person from their ideas. You can't divorce a person from their activities.
And I certainly don't want to be divorced from mine. I'm a total entity. And when you see what I do, this is an extension of what I think.